Howdy, howdy. What have you been up to?
Uh, Staying inside, yoga,
Cool.
meditation, working out, and then we got the banjo shop here. So there's the shop.
Yeah, totally.
There's my house.
Sick.
So and Tobias lives here, and Matt lives here. So we got a crew, and we're just kind of building stuff and quarantining.
Sick. Yeah, it's been chill. Been trying to just write music. That's really all I've been doing, which is it's interesting. It's more of like an exercise or a routine than it is I don't know, like I'm trying to just make these crazy ideas or songs or something. I'm just kind of like putting down whatever comes out, and sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's not.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of musicians are going to come out of this being really good at like noodling around and playing, and then when we can all get back together again and everyone's playing together, there'll be some mad chops out in the world.
Yeah, hopefully. I've been talking to a bunch of people, and everybody just seems like they're doing a bunch of like transcriptions, just like I don't know, bunch of transcribing a sax solo or something, some song, whatever, note for note, the whole thing. It's just like that's such discipline that only comes from time that is available now, I guess.
Yeah, that's what actually so Matthew Wilburn Skinner, he
Okay,
lives here and works at the shop. um, and he plays in a band called Tallgrass, but he also performs solo, and he's just got like a gajillion songs, and he like has to write his own version of tab down for him so he can like not lose the song. And
for sure, for sure.
so he's kind of digging into some old lyrics and some old stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I should do that because there's some songs that like I've made a lot of them just using this thing, and
Yeah, I've been seeing some videos of you playing that thing. It sounds great.
thanks, dude. It was really cheap. It was like $70 on the internet or something, brand new. And I don't know, one pickup, volume, tone, input jack, some strings. I don't know. I'm sure you can make one of these things really easily.
Well, actually, can I tell you a story about lapsteels?
I'm in.
So when I was really, really kind of in the midst of my apprenticeship as a luthier,
Mm,
it was with a guy named Michael Bashkin, who's a guitar builder.
totally.
And so I spent most of my time building guitars before the banjo shop. And I had a good friend, BJ Kinney, and
Okay.
he's an electrician, but he would always throw these really cool parties at his house where there would be musicians, and like he would set up a little stage, and it would just be kind of like a circling jam hangout kind of thing with all these players and all these instruments.
Hell yeah.
And one day he's like, "Hey, come into the barn. I want to show you something that I made," because he knew I was an instrument builder.
Hmm.
And he pulled out this old like fishtail skateboard that he had like very crudely made into a lap steel, a lot like that, with a volume knob
Yeah.
and a tone knob.
Cool.
And I was like, "Oh, dude, that's pretty cool." And he goes, I know that you build instruments. Like, I would really like to build more of these things if you like want to like work on a design together or something. So I drew up like and so it was just one skateboard deck with everything built into it. But I always thought it'd make a lot more sense if it was thicker and it had a little bit of a shape
Yeah.
more true to a lap steel. Um, so I stuck a bunch of skateboards and glued them together into like this 5 board thick ply,
Hell
and then
yeah.
I cut the shape out of the pedal steel and then set it up so it would work like an instrument.
Cool.
And that was when him and I decided it would be a good idea to build a shop together.
Hmm.
And then when I got the opportunity to build banjos and kind of get a handful of tools, um, I reached out to him first and was like, "Hey, let's build something sweet." And he's my business partner to this day, and a huge part of why the banjo shop itself looks so cool.
Crazy. That's wild,
Hmm.
dude. That's
Yeah.
fun. There's like the little seed that did all of the shops. That's cool.
Yep, that was the seed.
I like it. Yeah, this thing's crazy. I don't know. It blows my mind. Uh I understand why people have like so many of them as far as the tunings go. Uh
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
the C thing is really strange. As far as like the I don't know, thinking of the word, I guess like the string tension is very unnecessary to be in tune. You would
Hmm.
think that it isn't really a big deal because everything's fretless, but I think it is. I think you just sound like crap when the strings are like not at the right tension, and then it's like
Yeah,
garbage.
there's also like all types of like micro intonation things that come into play with string thickness, which is why a lot of bridges have like compensation on them to
Mm,
account for like the string thickness in regards to its relationship with the top of the fret that it's playing.
yeah, hell yeah, dude! It's been kicking my ass. The first one that I played was tuned like a guitar. This one's in C, the C6 tuning. And I was like, "Oh man, I'm ripping it on this thing." And then this one came with this weird set of strings on it, and I had to do my homework. But it's cool. I'm liking it. The E is like a 15 on this thing. It's so thick. I love it. I want to
That's
like
cool.
set up my guitar like that, where I just basically put baritone strings on it. I have a baritone, but it's right here. I don't have a bass right now, so I've been using this thing as my bass, and
Cool.
it's hard though to try to make it sound like a bass. It's not the real thing, but it's interesting. I'm trying to just make an album with what I got. I got like one microphone and one like input on an interface, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what everyone had at some point back in the day, you know.
Totally,
Even like a little 4-track tape player, like some of the Beatles' early stuff was on a
I
four
know.
track,
That blows
you
my
know.
mind. That blows my mind.
Yeah. So there's ways around it, and there's ways to make it sound cool. I feel like a lot of Beck's early stuff was like in the same boat where he had what he had, and he worked
Yeah.
with what he could.
Yeah, I don't know. I could probably sell some shit to get a base or something, but it's kind of funny just to like try and deal with whatever I have. And I don't know. I'm learning a lot of stuff about technology in general, like this Zoom thing. I had no idea this existed. And
Yeah, neither did I. I have a speculation that like when everyone started social distancing, that like they fed a little bit more money into the programming of it all and working out the kinks. And
yeah,
I played a show on Stage It the other day, and that seems to
I
be like
saw that.
one of the most common like platforms for streaming music. And I
Hmm.
think they were in the same boat where like they had to figure out some kinks right away. And
Yeah,
also, like, a lot of musicians really don't know how to like change their privacy settings on their browser, or
true.
don't have Chrome, or
Yeah, yeah,
just
dude.
like,
So many little
or
things. So many little
yeah,
things.
it's all the little details.
Totally.
Um, it took me a minute to figure out exactly how I was gonna set everything up for that show,
Hmm.
and still have a microphone that sounded decent. So I ended up having to do this whole interface plug in,
Yeah,
like with a little Scarlett and a nice, condenser mic, and downloaded Chrome and downloaded Flash and all the stuff. And finally, I was able to do it.
hell yeah.
But it was not an elegant uh, landing.
Dude, for sure. Same, really. I think that'll be a huge benefit for everyone in the long run. Is like, I got merch together. I started selling my music, which I hadn't been doing for a long time because I was making enough money where I was like, if you really want it, just go download it for free. But now it's like I need every penny. So, I'm only
Hmm.
doing $1 a song, but like anything helps. And I don't know, with the whole Yeah, like you're saying, the live streaming thing, that's like crazy. Hooking up an interface and even microphones and even I mean, you have like kind of already like a little stage space, so that probably helps a little bit. But like for me, I like
Yeah.
have my
I,
bedroom, so it's like I like moved my mattress and shit, and like I don't know.
mhm.
It's like just trying to make do with what you got and figuring out how to do it. In general, I was talking to this other guy who's been kind of doing this online teaching thing for like I don't know, 10 years, 15 years, or something, and he said it well that everyone is like in warp speed right now doing like 2 or 3 years worth of work in like a month or something, and it's just like it's pretty crazy the things everyone's learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
But dude, how has the banjo business been affected by all of this?
Well, we're fortunate with the idea that we had some like commissions stacked up
Cool.
to kind of go through, and we were pretty open with our clients saying, hey, like, let us know if you have some financial issues that are going to be coming up because we still plan on moving forward. And I already have a lot
Yeah.
of the wood, and some of my parts manufacturers are still sending out stuff. um, so we've been able to stay busy. As far as people looking for like elaborate instruments right now, um, it's certainly slowed down.
For
But
sure.
we had this whole game plan like right before uh,
Mm-hmm.
kind of everything started shutting down, where we were going to make like more of our people's model banjos, and those are the ones that like are way more affordable and super durable for the road, and they're all made out of like recycled wood, and it's kind
I
of
like
like
that.
we don't make a lot of money off of those particular banjos, but it's kind of like a thing that we like to do because me being a musician, Matt being a musician, Tobias being one, Caitlin being one, like we all know how how difficult it is to find a rig that you can really depend on when you're performing a lot or when you're
Yeah,
going
for
on the
sure.
road. And in the banjo world, the the prices are like pretty high. Like you go to like Deering banjos, and they're like basic, like nice professional model, which is like factory piece, is like $3,000. So like
That's a
with
lot.
those people, with those people's banjos, we kind of like, okay, I just want more people playing banjos in the world because I think that like more people dedicating themselves to an expression and music and all of these beautiful things that connects people together is like super important for me. So it's
No
something I
doubt.
just like to do. Yeah, so we're making a lot of those, and honestly, like I really think a lot about um, the history of the banjo, and I'm kind of a nerd for it all.
Right
And
on.
like the fascinating thing is there's all of these points throughout history where the banjo has kind of been a counterpart to suffering in
Hmm.
order to bring about joy. So like you go back to when when colonization was going on, and we were really starting to get like slavery in the United States at the time, and like the banjo is an African instrument. Like that's where its roots go
Oh, okay. I didn't
directly
know that.
to the Akating, like just all of these like gourd style, uh, goat skin head or whatever, flesh
Cool.
skin head, and then a series of strings.
Okay.
And uh, so, so there was like a period where the earliest banjos being made in the United States were made by like slaves that have came in
Yeah.
you know directly from Africa or from the islands, and you know that's huge trauma and huge despair, and like uh you need something to like really help cope with that feeling, or like express yourself and get some kind of like a joy and community out of the whole thing. So like,
Absolutely.
and then years later, the banjo started to become very appropriated into like the banjo
True.
that we know now as like the American banjo. um, and like during the Civil War, they were taking old drums and old chair legs and furniture and putting them together and making these early banjos.
Wow.
During
I
World
like that.
War One, like there were banjos everywhere. During the Great Depression,
Yeah.
especially, that's where a lot of folk music really like came came about. Like people kind
True.
of like
True.
singing songs of protest, singing songs of pain, spreading the news. There was no radio, there was no popular like outlet for music. It was just travelers and performers and people that held on to this really, really cool tradition. Um, and banjos were everywhere during those hardships because you could make them with stuff that you had laying around. They're like a
Yeah. Right on.
machine. You find an old drum, you find a coffee tin and a broomstick. You can make a banjo.
Hmm.
You know, so like, and then World War II, same thing with the labor union strikes afterwards. A lot of folk music from that time period was played on the banjo or the acoustic guitar or the mandolin. And same thing with civil rights movement. And even like after something as tragic as 9/11, like I've noticed that a lot of folk music started coming back into popular demand,
I could
because
see
I
that.
think
Yeah.
because I think there's really something to the idea of a like physical instrument made with real stuff that you can play just sitting outside or anywhere. You can play with people. You don't need electricity. You don't need any of this stuff.
True.
There's something real to it. There's something like palpable to it. And like traditionally it brings a lot of people together.
Hmm.
Um, and music in general does too. So, I feel like there's a lot of people out there, and we've kind of worked with some of the musicians that play on our roster. We're sending a banjo out that we've been kind of holding on to for Willie T. Taylor, but don't tell him because it's a secret.
Okay.
And
Cool.
and like some of the other players like that we kind of worked out a payment system. You know, we're fortunate that we live so simple here at the shop that like we were able to say, hey, we love your music and we want you to keep doing it. We know that all your touring has been totally shut down for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Which is
Like
crazy.
just keep that banjo, make music, and like we'll keep doing what we're doing, and just consider it like what we can do, because we're able to work a little bit.
Yeah.
At some point there's going to be like, hey, you know we went through all our commissions and we haven't gotten any new commissions because no one has any money.
Yeah.
um and but until that day comes, like we're still able to work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I don't know. I don't know how long all of this will last. I kind of think about that more and more. But everyone seems like it's going on longer than, you know, anticipated. But I think in general, it seems like everyone's kind of switching online. So I think it'll give people some time to figure out how to switch their income to something else, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. There's there's going to be there's going to be ways, I think.
Yeah, this whole online thing is just crazy. It seems, you know, everybody is just totally changing. Yeah, I don't even know. Every line of work is now working like online in some way if they can. If you're not like a construction worker or something, you know, you're working from home, and Man, that was probably never possible before for a lot of people, and I don't know if people if it was not possible and it is now that they will go want to go back to clocking in 9 to 5 or you know I don't know the green effects like on the environment this is having. You know,
Yeah, I was riding my bike up Horsetooth just the other day, and I could
monster
see so far out
for
into the
sure.
distance. It was,
That's kind of
you know.
I mean I don't know. I've outside of playing music, I feel like my job is just driving. Like I just drive to gigs all the time, and I
Hmm.
always take 25, and there's always that stretch where you just see the mountains. And yeah, like dude, it's. I was driving the other day, and it was just like, whoa, whoa. You never see them that clear. I mean, even on really sunny days, I'm not sure what it is. If it's like smog or dust or just I don't know, low air quality or I don't know what, but
Hmm.
yeah, sometimes it's even hard to see. Super just the mountains super clear, I guess, whether it's clouds or whatever. But yeah, dude, and it feels good. The air feels nice. God, who knows how many people are. I was talking to this guy last night from New Zealand, and he kind of traveled most of the UK and Europe before all this happened. And 15 days before New Zealand shut down, he moved into his house again. And I was like, that's so crazy. I don't know.
Yeah,
So lucky. But
yeah. I have a couple of friends uh, who kind of travel around doing all types of work on farms and stuff like that.
hmm
That are kind of in the same boat. Like, they, have had spots and gigs and things like that forever where they're doing, really productive work, and they're home, or wherever they can be around. Some of them don't have, like, are in a completely different part of the world, and
sure.
they're just trying to figure out how to navigate all of this. It's far out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was talking to this kid. He was in Europe when all of this was happening, and he had to cancel like 15 shows, and he only got to play three of them, and then like London shut down itself, and he like got stuck there for a while. Had to take like buy a new flight because whatever airline he took just shut down all their flights, and
Oh, crazy.
uh,
Wow.
yeah, I don't know. I was like, holy crap, and then Trump sent that thing, and he had to bail like 2 a.m. that time, their time. I guess that makes more sense. But
Hmm.
that's so crazy. I would never imagine that it would have come down to that. My older brother has been playing on cruise ships for like ever and ever, and he's like detained on the ship for like 30 or 40 days or something. I don't know how long, but before he can like just get back into Florida so he can go live with my parents again. Because like
Is he still on the boat?
yeah, for I don't know,
What?
it's probably been like two
Jeez.
weeks, 2 weeks on the boat, and he's still got another 2 or 3 weeks to go.
Hmm.
And it's like CDC like mandated because they go to Spain and Italy and all that shit. So it's like I think from Alaska to Australia is like the thing, which is pretty crazy.
Hmm.
So yeah, he went everywhere he shouldn't. So they're just hoping that no one's sick and they'll let him back on, I guess, when they feel that time is right. But it's still like that's a long time. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's there's a lot of people who seem super affected in just more ways than one. I'm really back to kind of the virtual thing. I'm stoked that that's happening. I don't know. I hope that stays alive. I don't. I mean, it was a thing before, but now it's like super necessary. So I hope
Yeah.
that because like I don't know. The other day I made like $100 for like 45 minutes, and I've definitely made less on gigs than that, sadly. So
Uh
uh,
huh. Yeah.
and the teaching thing that's kind of new for me. I've been I used to do it a lot. I used to work at like music schools and stuff,
Hmm.
but since I moved out here I kind of was like obviously I had no students other than a few on the internet or something, but I was like trying to just get gigs, and that was my only form of income, and now I'm like, well, that doesn't even exist anymore. So it's interesting. It's making me think about other things to do that still involve playing music.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, one thing that I kind of want to put out there,
Yeah.
um, that uh, you know, so there's this thing called Vindicate Foods.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
put on it's put on by a dude named Nathan Shaw, and it started about 3.5 years ago, I think.
Hmm.
And essentially, it was partnership with the food bank and like Whole Foods, the two Sprouts in town, and then the Sprouts in Loveland. They all donate to the food bank, but the food bank
Okay.
doesn't go out there and pick anything up on the weekend,
Hmm.
just because they don't have the resources to do that. So Nathan started working with those stores and picks up the food that the food bank was going to be picking up.
Right
You
on.
know, so a good friend of mine, Jeremiah Luce, who passed away last year,
Oh wow.
he
Sorry to hear
introduced
that.
me to Nathan the second week of Vindicate Foods.
Hmm.
And so Tobias Bank, he plays drums in Whippoorwill and he works at the shop here. Him and I started driving the truck
Okay. Cool.
every week to pick up the food,
Yeah.
and we take it to a resource center on Drake and LeMay called Serve 68, and it's just like available. It's to pick up. It's like you walk through, you get
Cool.
whatever you need, you donate what you can, and it was put on the list of an essential service. So we started doing this thing where when we go pick everything up, all the stores have like very specific like CDC practices that we
Yeah.
that we absolutely like conform to. Um, and it's now a drive-through service, so you can
Cool.
go on Sunday from 12 to 3 or Tuesday from 12 to 3. If anyone out there needs food,
Yeah.
um,
Seriously.
and it's good stuff, and it's like super dietary friendly. So if you're like vegan, they'll make you a bag that's all vegan. If
Nice.
you just have a standard like old school American diet, they'll put milk and eggs and bread and all the stuff
Yeah.
in the bag. And like it's just like donate what you can. You pull up, everyone's wearing masks, everything's sanitized. So like if you know any musicians, yourself included, that like are having a very difficult time make like connecting those dots without the gigs,
Yeah.
um,
Definitely.
yeah, tell them to go to Vindicate. You can look it up. It's
For sure.
vindicatefoods.org,
Okay.
um,
Right on. Yeah.
and
I'll tag it
it'll
in the link
be
or
going.
something.
And dude, we get like 2 to 3 thousand pounds of food from
It's
just
incredible.
those stores. That's just two towns in one state, like on 2 days of like of
It's a
like
lot.
excess.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so like also one of the biggest mission with that was always help to eliminate food waste.
Totally.
Like before
Incredible.
like financial things kind of came into like hardcore play. It was like, yo, like there's all this food, let's eat it, you
True.
know.
True.
Um,
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It was I don't know, more financially stable before I took music just performing as a full-time thing. And when I moved here, and I don't know who told me about the food bank or the Vindicate, but I don't know. I was very thankful that I was like, it's enough food to not have to pay for groceries like ever. I
mhm.
haven't paid for groceries in like 2 years almost, just because I've been going to the food bank, and like
Yeah, me too.
it's kind of crazy, and I mean, when you're fucking pinching pennies, it's like a huge grace to not spend $200 on groceries or something. And dude, yeah, definitely. Word to the struggling peoples. Don't be shy right now. It's
Hmm.
everyone's struggling, and that's kind of the craziest thing in general. But also, what I try to keep in mind the most is everyone seems to be in the same exact boat. Almost everybody I know doesn't have a job right now. Everybody I know is like just totally pinching pennies. Everybody just seems really depressed and really like super stressed out and
Hmm.
unmotivated, and yeah, it's kind of crazy. So yeah,
Yeah, it's really easy um, to be blue at a time like now. Like
Hmm.
the best the best thing I think for all of us is just like, like look at it all as like a cocoon instead of a cage, and like anything that you never had time for, like
I like that.
you
Very
got
good
the
point.
time now. Like really try and figure out exactly what makes you happy and what you care about, and try and get as much community as you can and stay
Yeah.
fit.
True. Yeah, I've been slacking on the fit. I've been going for a walk every day, which I didn't even do before. So
Hmm.
that's good, I guess. But that's I don't know. You might be able to shed some light on this. Maybe me as well. I haven't had a day job for 4 years, probably more than that.
Hmm.
I just been trying to make my money, not clocking into somewhere having a boss, and
Yeah.
that's kind of been my lifestyle for a long time. And I remember last time we talked, you said you like lived out of your car for a while, had like mobile living for a minute. That's
Hmm.
like an entirely kind of situation like that too, where like especially now where it's like you don't have to go to work, you don't have a job, you aren't supposed to drive around, you can't go anywhere, or you can't go to the bar, you can't go wherever. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. What are some tips and tricks that you use as kind of just, a regular stay-at-home person to stay motivated, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Um, y- you know, one of the things that I really like the most is like staying really on top of a good like yoga, breath work, mindfulness type of practice,
Hmm.
like to start the day out. And
Okay.
it's really interesting because a lot of like yoga instructors and people that kind of like help facilitate those type of movements,
Hmm.
before quarantine, I was going to the gym like 5 days a week,
Hell yeah. That's
um,
awesome.
and going on these super long bike rides and stuff.
I would see
Um,
you like over here, like over where I live, and that's like, well, that's not close. I was like, damn, dude.
yeah, I bike. I
Nice.
bike. I bike a lot, a whole lot.
That's
I
sick.
love it. It's one of my favorite things to do, actually. Um, so like, there's yoga instructors out there that like specifically my buddy Chelsea Call. She's
Hmm.
doing this whole series where she's like doing kind of like what we're doing now, live stream through Zoom style yoga
Hell yeah.
sessions, and then you can actually watch that. She records them and you can watch them afterward. So like, kind of being like those cats like are used to having this collective experience, and same thing with people going to shows. We're all used to this collective
True.
experience. So like anything where you can like kind of hop on and kind of be with people digitally as best you can, and also like, imagine if like I was streaming a show that I wanted to do, like I had a show planned for this day, and I'm just going to stream it from my home. And
Yeah.
if no one's watching, like that creates this void within like a performer that's so used to like
Yeah.
pushing, like bleeding their feelings and thoughts and
Totally.
everything
Where are
out
my
that they've
claps
been
at? Where's
developing.
my cheers after my solo? Where's my free beer? Like, all
Yeah,
the things.
so like, we're all lonely. We're all looking for, as much as you can really like focus on like your therapy and everything that you do that makes you feel not alone. Like you could have a great grip on that, but like all of a sudden you can't have hugs.
True.
You can't like go to the singer songwriter showcase
Mm-hmm.
and see people, and like it's a lot easier to not be like, you know not be lonely because you put so much stock into like, giving that to yourself. Like it's very hard not having the supplemental stuff to go along with it. So it's like a
Yeah.
real test. And like, um yeah, just kind of remember we always have ourselves to like validate, who we are and what we're doing. And all that stuff, and we don't need to worry so much about getting that validation from the places that we're used to, which is
Yeah,
important. But we just don't have that right now. So like anything you can do if someone's putting themselves out there through this like digital platform that we're kind of living in now, like if you got the time, like say something nice, give them
true.
$1,
Dude,
like
seriously, seriously.
engage, because like we're all lonely
Yeah,
and we all
yeah,
we
true.
all need it, and it's kind of like what is around, and
No,
like
I totally agree. At least from my perspective, I'm kind of hesitant to say this when I'm going to say it, where like I've been noticing like even more hostility on the internet than normal, and people are just like kind of just trying to pick fights with people, and it's like, dude, just like be nice, like support, like you're saying, just support somebody. Like you don't have to like say some bullshit on my post. You could just like you could just share it. You could just press like or don't do anything at all. Like there's so many other things that you can contribute to right now than like starting shit on Facebook or something. I'm just seeing a lot of that, and I'm like, this is kind of crazy. But everybody just kind of seems on edge, so I'm not like again like
yeah.
saying anything or kind of like trying to check anybody or anything. It's just like whatever. But I'm like, wow, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of hostile shit. So yeah,
There's a lot of fear,
well said.
you know and like with fear, like that's like one of the biggest like trigger things ever, is like when you're afraid, like you go into this fight, flight,
Yeah,
or
true,
or
true.
or do nothing, I think is the third one that they added to that whole thing now.
Hmm,
But and like it's really easy to like lose the humanization of a person when you're not looking at
true,
them. You know
true.
what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if someone's like rah, 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 and then you're like, hey, like blah blah blah, then
Yeah.
like you feel that, you see that, it's like, oh, I'm being hostile and this person's not trying to do that. But when you're like caught up in this world of letters, and
Yeah.
like facelessness, like it's just like, you can say some really mean shit and like not have to see like how your action has like affected
True.
someone.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't read it on their face or something. And
Yeah.
that's yeah. It's dude. It's pretty crazy. I mean, it's the whole whatever social media bullying thing has been around forever, but now it's
Mhm.
like the only way of communication, and it's like that kind of needs to stop, and people need to be supportive. And even if it's not even buying anything, it's still just like everyone could share everyone's shit, and everyone would be a lot more known, and that would just make everyone again feel more validated, which could be cool right now in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I've been trying to spread the love via Facebook a little bit more, where it's like my friends shit. I just go and like click the invite all button if they have a page. Like I've been getting banned from Facebook from doing that. Like whatever, dude. Like if it doesn't let me send any more invites until April 10th, I'll do it again on April 10th. But it's like I just trying to get people's name out there, and that's a small thing that takes literally 2 seconds. Or like another cool thing I've been seeing like businesses do, like the Forge let me do a show through their Facebook, which is like lets
Yeah,
me
I've been seeing
use
those.
their like 3,000 followers that I don't have. So it's like I'm getting more fans, trying to collaborate with people. And the whole virtual show thing is kind of interesting because it brings you like if you were to throw that show, it's like you could be playing with somebody in Japan or Africa or New York or Texas or something, and you're all on the same bill per se, and those
Yeah.
fans would have never mingled with each other otherwise. And it's kind of just that's what I'm trying to use this time for, I guess, with the internet more specifically than I was before, where it was like, at least for me, I was really only focusing on Colorado. Like, I wasn't touring, I wasn't like, I don't know, doing anything like that. I was just like, I'm only going to play in, Fort Collins and the surrounding area as far as I could drive
Yeah,
reasonably.
you were playing a lot. You were playing a lot too.
Yeah,
You know,
thank you.
I
Thank you.
always saw the little. line up for like, hey, this month I'm doing this. He's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, he's playing most nights of the week. Fuck yeah.
Totally. Yeah, and I don't know, that was really my spread was just like where what can I do in the area. So it's just been a totally different mindset where I don't know, and I see also still Colorado's going really strong with the whole like the NoCo thing and the Rocky Mountain Virtual Music Festival. Like those are like
Hmm.
just exploding, dude. Like
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah, I just played uncanceled music
okay,
festival, and it's still going on now. It's like a multiple week thing, and one of my
that's
one
wild.
of my buddies from Minneapolis, Humbird, is
Okay,
playing it too, and it's really cool. Like
oh yeah.
to see like someone I know that I'm actually really good like pals with, and they're in it in the same boat.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting. I just had a thought, like in the internet scene, like there'll be friend groups within the internet soon, even more than there were probably. Where
Uh,
so and so,
yeah.
like you're saying, your friend, he's probably already in the hang, but now it's like you're on this thing, and maybe even there's some people that will reach out to you from the uncanceled thing that wouldn't have before.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
dude, it's interesting. That's all I'm saying. I hope it stays open like this to where people can have online shows as well as real shows. And in general, I mean, I think solo performing is going to take off a lot more too.
I
Uh,
think so too. Yeah.
where everyone is now like, I have this guitar in my house, and I was already a good bass player or a singer or whatever, you know what I mean? And they're going to pick up something and realize that they really don't need anyone because they're going to have like 3 months on their hand to practice. And man, that's a long
Hmm.
time. Like, I don't know, especially if you're doing it every day. That's kind of like, at least for me, like for me, I try to wake up early in the morning, like 8 o'clock or something, maybe 9 o'clock if I'm really lazy. But try to wake up early, and then I try to practice like immediately. And I don't know, I'm not really like a food breakfast person, so I just kind of like just wake up, do my thing, chill, and then I try to do like mindless things that aren't really creatively based, I guess. Like maybe it's sending emails or doing the dishes
Hmm.
or I don't know. I'm not like mentally ready for that shit yet.
Yeah. Well, that's a good time to be. That's a good time to be in your thoughts, because like that's
Yeah.
when you have like a clean slate of opportunity to kind of like explore a headspace. Like,
Mm,
people wake
true.
up on the wrong side of the bed. Like that's a real thing. Like,
Yeah,
you
totally.
know, when you wake up, like the your mood and how you like focus on like almost like curating it to like have your best day
Totally.
is like really
Totally.
important. um, and I think it's that mindless like kind of task form where you're just kind of moving a little bit. You're not trying to come up with this crazy like solution or whatever,
Yeah.
but that's when you get those fucking ideas, dude. That's when you
True.
get like,
True.
oh wait, all of a sudden this you know mind lasso went into the sky and wrangled up this crazy idea,
True.
and it's like, oh, okay, cool, I will build a unicycle out of repurposed hemp,
Yeah.
and I just saw the design in my head, because you're not thinking about, oh, I need to call blank, and I'm like, this is the time where I'm doing it, or oh, I went to the store, and like that guy was wearing that weird pin on his suspenders, like what was up with that,
Yeah.
you don't have all the stimulus from the day quite yet, so
True.
it's like you're digging into like your own mental reserve.
Yeah, and I don't know. I get really stressed out really easily, and a lot of my tendency is to like wake up and just start like grinding, and I noticed that that just caused me a lot more mental stress than it was really needed, I guess. And, like I used to wake up, stay up really late and like just I don't know, relentlessly send emails until like 2 in the morning, which is just absurd. and like just like I need to get the gigs, I need to talk to these people and blah blah blah, and I would just like think about way too much crazy shit trying to like fathom these insane ideas like you were saying that were like going to somehow do anything that never really led into anything successful. It was just a bunch of dead ends, really, which was interesting. And then, yeah, once I kind of flipped, I was like, I felt much more happy, much less stressed. And yeah, I don't know, having a routine right now, I feel like is super hard, but important.
Mhm. Do breath work when you wake up.
Yeah, I should.
Yeah,
I need to do that and like
just
just
like,
exercise.
just like sit down. Yeah, just sit down and like breathe in and out and feel it, and breathe in and breathe out. Do that for like, you know, 3 minutes,
Hmm.
and like all of a sudden, like,
It goes far.
if you exercise and do all that stuff on top of it, great. But like you don't need to. Like you can just sit down for a couple minutes and breathe,
For sure.
and like don't try and block any thoughts out. Just like be there, and essentially you're just meditating. Like,
Yeah.
and you can walk away from that positive experience immediately, and like all of a sudden you're like your lungs are full of good fresh air, and you have thought about your breathing, because everyone gets all stressed out and tense, like, so like you don't notice your jaw. Like
Yeah.
I would notice when I was like working on like really learning three finger style banjo, it was so difficult. So like I would be sitting there on the edge of the bed like, oh, just
Yeah.
grinding my fucking teeth together. And then I realized that one day, like I think I had practiced for like 5 or 6 hours straight. And I wake up the next morning and my jaw's all sore. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? and
Yeah.
then Matt was like, yeah, have you ever noticed when you practice, you like clench your jaw and your breathing is short, and like, you
I
know,
always forget to breathe whenever I'm really, really in the moment for music. I don't know why that makes any sense, but I'm like, all of a sudden I'm like, damn it. Like,
well,
yeah,
fortunately, I play a lot of harmonicas, so
right on.
so like, and that was one of my favorite instruments to play for the years of music where I was like working on like writing and theory and all the nerdy stuff that you really have to like
Yeah.
dig into. And so I was like doing breath work the whole time I was figuring out licks and stuff. But what I was saying is just do that in the morning, and all of a sudden you'll think about your breathing throughout the day
Hmm,
inadvertently, right?
totally.
So like if I get stressed out or tense, like I first thing I do is think about, yo, is your jaw clenched right now? Are your shoulders tight? Like
Yeah.
what's your body doing? And then take those 3 breaths, and then everything, sink it down. And then all of a sudden I can like notice, I was about to like have this crazy reaction,
Totally.
like, because I came up in a family that was like all like, hardcore like verbal like aggression,
Hmm.
and like tense and like all this
Yeah.
stuff.
Snappy.
And so like naturally I always want to like, you know wig
Yeah.
out. But I've known that about myself for so long that like I can catch it, you
Yeah.
know, and,
Totally.
and like I can work with it and I can do all that stuff. So now I'm an even keeled dude.
Yeah.
But like when I was younger, whew, I had some anger going on for sure.
Yeah.
So
Me
like,
too. Me too. I feel that.
yeah, I think a lot of musicians have had like, it's the ones that are super super like virtuoso, like, um refined players that typically came up from like really nice households and like were given lessons, and like they're really good, but they're not like out there feet on the street like, yo, I have to get this out of me.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
That's a
I think
different thing for sure.
so. I think a lot of the like hardcore players have a lot of baggage, and music is what saved them.
For sure, sure. Yeah, it's definitely what happened to me too. I was so hateful, so mean to people. And I don't know. I can't remember the exact quote, but you know, it's like I guess I look at things now as to the like, oh shit, I totally used to do that, or I used to be like that person, or I used to be that person who would, you know, yell at somebody or say some rude shit or just like ghost somebody or do something ridiculous, you know. I was totally that person, and now I'm not like judgmental of that kind of behavior because I'm like I used to be that person, and I feel like that's a very strange place to be where like yeah, now I'm chill, but like before, I used to be so wild, and it was like,
Yeah, I
uh,
mean,
I don't know, no judgment to people who do fucked up things, but
yeah,
you know, it's just like,
I
dang,
I
anger
think
and
about
aggression being one of those things I was guilty of for sure.
I think about times where like I would be so like such like a little scenester where it was like, those guys suck, or
Mm-hmm.
like openly like be very like disheartening toward someone who's like up there playing like you. And when you really think about it, like it takes a
Mm.
lot of courage to like
True.
get up there, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's honorable
Mm-hmm.
regardless of if it's something that like you necessarily like resonate with, as far as like, oh, I think that's really good music and I really appreciate it. Even if you don't like it, if they're really up there authentically doing something that is very meaningful to them,
Yeah,
and they took the effort to face the fear to even be up there in the first place, like that deserves kind encouragement, that
totally.
deserves like appreciation, that deserves respect. Like people that like, are like up there saying like mean shit like, oh fuck you guys, or like just, you know really trying to detract from the
Yeah,
person on
yeah,
stage deliberately, like
for
it's
sure.
so unkind. And like seeing myself being someone who has done that in the past, and then
Totally.
imagining the first couple times that I got on the stage, it was like, oh man, what a dick. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
ooh, just
totally.
seeing those like uh cycles in yourself is I think one of the best like ways to grow as like a person that actually is caring and compassionate. And back to the whole like isolation thing, is like now's a good time to kind of look at that stuff,
Yeah, I
like
agree. I agree.
if
What
there's
makes
like,
you pissed off? What makes you, you know, want to lash out at that person? Why do you want to do that? Like,
yeah,
in
why.
general, I can relate to what you're saying from like a teaching standpoint, but in the shoes of the student, I guess. And I had so many teachers growing up that were just like so rude and like just like, you know, like fuck you, you suck, like go home, this is not for you, like. And I think it takes a really special type of person to be motivated by that kind of behavior. To where it's like, yeah, fuck, I need to go home and practice, like, and that they don't quit. And general, like, most people are just like, I'm out, like, that dude was rude to me, you know, or something. But like, it's, dude. And then when I started teaching, I guess, when I had my own students, I initially did that to some students where it was just like, dude, did you even do what I asked you or something? Just say something snarky or something, because that's how people were treating me. And then like, I actually saw how that reaction was received by the students, like you were saying, like on their face, and it was just like, oh my god, it was like earth shattering to some of them, where they're like, I disappointed this person, like, you know, I don't know. And I realized that words of kindness just like radiated so much more and actually made people more inspired. So I was surprised by that at a young age. I don't know. I remember being maybe 20 or something and seeing, yeah, like, oh, that's not the way you should do things. But there's so many other instances since then. But I remember that being the first time I had really even had that kind of thought process, I guess.
Mhm.
It's crazy. You learn so many things about yourself looking at other people, which is a strange thing.
Yeah,
Uh, I remember my mom always saying the thing that you don't like about people is the thing that you have inside of yourself, and
Oh yeah,
that's some deep shit. And I think about
it
that even
is.
more to this day. There's so many, like you're saying, it's like the aggression thing is like, oh, well, that was something I was super guilty of. But before, you're like, oh, that guy's such a dick. And you're like, oh, wait. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
or you just don't even realize like you're not looking at yourself like enough to where like you're not in this world of distraction and you're kind of faced with who you are
True
and
that.
like
True that.
and like
There's no distractions. There's no
it's
bullshit.
important. It's like it's like a really unique opportunity like to kind of deal with all that stuff and face all of that stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
one thing that this is so like this is super simple, but it's like if you look at it as a metaphor, right? I have had this deep fear of committing to a headstand,
mm,
and like I know that I can physically like do it. Like I'm strong enough to do that. But like every time I stuff my head on the ground and put my arms up and like go to jump up, I would not commit to it. And I
yeah,
would be up against a wall and whatever. And it was like, I started thinking about like, why am I halting from like that moment? And then I just saw this whole, like I sat with it and looked at it. And then like I saw this whole fucking timeline of like all of these moments of fear in my
mm,
life for all the way down to when I was just a little dude
yeah,
and like where I would just like stop. I would freeze,
hmm,
right? Like jumping off the high dive at Wakulla Springs. I would freak it, which was only like 20 feet. I would like stand up to the edge and sit there for like 10 minutes
yeah. Just psych
and
yourself
then
out.
walk down the stairs instead of
Yeah,
jumping in the water. Like what is up with that fear? Like why does this fear exist? And like, you know, how can I face it and communicate with it and heal it? And now I can do headstands.
wow.
Um because I was like, yo, Renee, she is Matt's partner,
Okay.
and she teaches yoga and she's like super fit. I was like, hey, will you just like tell me how to do like what I need to do a headstand and just like I'm gonna throw my legs up and if you could just like be there, like I think that I can just do it
Yeah,
and like be and like it's like just telling someone, hey, I'm afraid of this and I like I care about you enough to admit that because I've admitted it to myself and like can you be fellowship with me
yeah.
like
That's
in order to conquer this thing that I'm afraid of
higher level
like
for sure.
and you can't and like so insert thing here formulate metaphor there and
Yeah,
it's just a matter of like yeah we're afraid like
for sure.
and that's okay and that's fine and you can tell people that you're afraid and like no one's gonna be like oh you're a coward like
Yeah. No, that's being too big a
that's
person, I think.
yeah and
In
if someone
general,
is calling you a coward for like being honest about your fears like you know
yeah, that's
it's
okay.
it's and that's okay because they're probably afraid too like
Yeah,
and like
true.
if we can just kind of all admit that and like be there for one another like you know
Yeah, no doubt. In general, my kind of realization with like fear has been, I don't know, and improvising or performing or something. I always will get choked up or something, or as soon as I start thinking and hesitating and over analyzing or whatever, that's the second that I fuck up or can't do it. And whenever I have like no fear and I go into a situation just with like full confidence, I think like realizing that was the problem has let me do it in other aspects of life, like you're saying, where it was like, oh, I'm pretty much just afraid, and I should just go and just play the D minor chord or whatever it is and like not think about it. I can even say that about like sight reading music. Like when someone just puts a piece of like written music in front of me, I've been reading music since I was like a child. It's more of like a psychological thing a lot of the times where it's like I know what's on the page and I can definitely play
Yeah.
it. It's just like just don't question yourself and just do it and then you can play it. But as soon as I start being like, wait, it was supposed to be blah, 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 like 99% of the time if I just don't think I'm gonna do it right and make the right choice and probably do the right thing. But you know that does take some conscious effort sometimes within itself. But in general, that's kind of where I learned that lesson. But yeah, no doubt, dude. It's commitment and no fear. But it is okay to be afraid at the same time. I think realizing the fear is the first way to overcome it in general.
Yeah, and what's even kind of like, beautiful too, as tragic as it can be, is like sometimes like you can't do it yet, and like
True.
that's okay too. Like, you know,
Mm,
notice that urge that you want to be able to do that, and listen to that, like, yo,
true.
I haven't spent enough time to sight read this right now, but if you give me an hour, I can like figure it out and memorize it and we can play it. But
Totally.
like, you need this and I can't provide this. That's not like a matter of shame. It's a matter of like understanding that it's important to you to be in a position where you can do that one day
Totally.
if you care
Totally.
about it enough. So use that to inspire you, to motivate you, to put in the effort and the work to become what you want to become.
Yeah.
Not to shame you so much to where it's like, oh, rats, I'll never do that. And I'm not going to even try because I failed. Like,
Yeah. Dude, seriously, it's they're hard lessons to learn. At least I still can say I don't think I've learned them. I've only realized what they are. But
yeah,
it's
that's the thing is, we can talk about this all day, but like when you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, you're on the wrong side of the bed, and
yeah,
it's hard to like
sure,
change that unless you have the tools for it. And
yeah,
it takes a long time to earn those tools. That's
true that.
for sure.
True that. Lifetimes. Lifetimes. But dude, it's been a pleasure. I'm gonna go make some spaghetti, I think. And
Cool.
I'm trying to hopefully release a new song tomorrow. I think the hook is "Please let me shine on," and I feel like that kind of like radiates what we're talking about right now. So I'm into that. But
Cool.
dude, I appreciate it. Thanks for the thoughts. If you wouldn't mind just like sending me your Venmo thing, if you want to link your music, Cloverlick site, whatever, like just some stuff I can tag in the YouTube description because I finally figured out how to get hour-long videos on YouTube.
Cool.
But
Sweet.
yeah, another little thing we were talking about that earlier. It was like I had only been able to upload like 5 or 6 minutes or something, and anything longer, it just my YouTube would be like, you're not allowed. And so I just did my homework, and now I can upload videos. So yeah,
Nice.
but
Congratulations.
thank you, brother. It's a pleasure, and hope to see you in real life soon.
Cool, man.
Peace.
Peace.